Sorry, I gotta get in.
Good morning. I'm Steve Foulds. So I'm Charles's lawyer, and I think you're going to ask questions. So
Could you spell your name first?
yes, Foulds. Fredericton. And so you want to start asking questions, or do you want me to make a statement?
Well, what do you think about what the chief of police has said he will do from this point on?
Okay. Well, first of all, we're very pleased that there's going to be an independent review. So I think that's an important thing. The chief on the radio this morning was talking. He seemed to say that he was really dealing with a problem of optics, and I guess I don't agree that this is just about optics. There is a reality there that needs to be addressed. I think the perception of a lot of people in Fredericton is that there's been some fairly heavy-handed tactics to deal with someone who has been a critic of the Fredericton police. And so that's a little bit more than optics. There was a situation, when on January the 16th of this year, Charles LeBlanc was pleading guilty to the criminal charge of causing a disturbance for his protests in front of the police station. And 3 days later, there's a search warrant executed on his house, his residence, and he's arrested and charged with under Section 301 of the Criminal Code. So that's reality. That's not all. So I very much welcome this. I think it would be very helpful if the chief took a little time to talk to members of the community and experts in this area before he develops and finalizes the terms of reference. There are people of all walks of life in Fredericton who are interested in this issue. So first of all, take the time to do the job properly, getting it set up. And I think this might be a time for the Premier or the Attorney General to lend her assistance to the chief by appointing someone under the Inquiries Act, so the Brunswick legislation that deals with inquiries. And I think that would lend this process the kind of independence and transparency that the chief has been talking about, and that I think people want.
What do you mean by an inquiry? You mean set up an inquiry? What
Yes.
do you mean?
The Attorney General, the Premier has the power to appoint someone to conduct an inquiry under provincial legislation. So instead of this just being a report that's commissioned by the Fredericton Chief of Police that he's going to show to the mayor at some point, this would have more oomph, if you like, more legal importance. There'd be more powers to look into what took place, and I think most importantly, there would be it would deal with the perception issue, the optics issue that the Chief of Police was talking about this morning.
So do you plan on asking the province to get involved then, the Attorney General? Or are you going to approach the Attorney General?
Well, I think we're doing that right now. Yeah. We'll see whether they wish to be involved in that.
Well, what if she's not watching or listening? Do you plan on doing something official?
We can do that, yeah. Charles is just one person, but yes, we can do that. And I hope that there are other people in the community who would express the same view.
Do you think that this internal review should be done by, perhaps it's going to be done by police force, obviously sometimes the RCMP ends up doing this, do you think it should be done from someone outside of this province?
Well, I think you've heard from what I said already that, we're not keen on a review that's just one police force looking at what another police force has done. And that's where the suggestion for the appointment of someone under the Inquiries Act comes from. Okay, so we can't control what this review is going to look like, but certainly, police officers reviewing police officers isn't necessarily the best way. There are other ways to approach this, I would say.
Who would you suggest other than another police force or police officer?
Well, if this is if there's an appointment made under the Inquiries Act, that'll be something that the Premier or the Attorney General determines. In these cases, it's often someone like a retired judge who does these kinds of things, but someone with the experience and also with the perceived impartiality.
And we're very, very happy that cooler heads has prevailed. The chief announced this morning that I'll get my computer in a few days. And the reason that Steve, what he's saying about a provincial inquiry is the whole system.
Charles, do you think you were singled out?
I can't answer that. We're not sure. That's why we need a provincial inquiry. And if it happened to me, what other people did it happen to that we will never hear of? This is the reason we need a provincial inquiry.
Are you concerned at all that they may try to go after you civilly? No?
I'm not. We will deal with that when that happens. That's no. I got no comments on that. But the bottom line is, we need a good, honest, direct, provincial inquiry.
And have you filed any complaint about being improperly touched?
I haven't. That complaint there. If you check my blog, you'll see the whole story there.
Mr. Foulds, can we just kind of reorganize here? So, because it's not like we're 5,500 here. Can you tell me well, first of all, how did you get involved with Charles? How did you become his lawyer?
I was hired. He would say luck. I would say luck. He hired me I guess about 2 months ago now.
So are you being paid?
I don't need to comment on that.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious as to how do you think this would have gone had Charles LeBlanc had the resources to hire a lawyer from the get-go?
I think it depends what the get-go is, you know.
That's exactly why we need a provincial inquiry. If a person would have been charged, there's another person that was charged under 301 in Fredericton, and we don't know who that person is. If that person is on social assistance, like myself, that person will have to apply to New Brunswick Legal Aid, and maybe they will grant a lawyer. I got lucky. I had some very good friends, powerful friends. The less fortunate, the rich, they helped me. And I'm very fortunate on that one. I got lucky. That's why we need a public inquiry, that somebody be charged under 301 that wouldn't have the influence that I had. And if Steve would have never stepped forward and my supporters, I would have had to go to legal aid.
In light of everything that's happened, are you thinking of toning down your blog a bit, or is it going to be business as usual?
I'll give a comment on that in the future.
I guess what I'm wondering about is, because I understand that when the police take a computer, they automatically copy the hard drive. So I was told that had he had a lawyer at the beginning, he would have had his computer back within a day or two. Do you have any sense of that or any knowledge of that?
Well, if someone had a magic wand, yeah, I think they might have been able to bring it back. I mean, there are some questions about the search warrant. I'll just say that the police obtained the search warrant properly with an application to investigate one blogging incident, one post in July of last year. That's the reason they got it. That didn't entitle them to do a full-scale review of what was on his hard drive and computers and so on. So, and I'm sure that what was done was appropriate, but nevertheless, I'm going to ask what kind of search was done on the computer, and because I think courts in Canada have recognized that there's a lot of privacy rights that attach to people's personal computers. Sorry, is this running for the moment? Hang on. Oh dear, that's gonna look great.
That's okay, you can do that again.
Yeah.
We're on tape, so that's okay.
What should happen to the information that is there,
No.
that they have copied or acquired?
Well, there's sort of two separate questions: is what did they look at, and then the second question is what should be done with it. So I think, as I've said, that courts in Canada have recognized that there are really significant privacy rights that attach to the information that's on everybody's computers, all of our computers at home. And we have our whole lives are sort of charted out on those little boxes, and so it is important that a search of the computer in this situation was done in a suitably restricted way. So I'm pretty sure that happened, but I'm going to ask the question anyway.
Who will you be asking that question of?
Oh, I'll be writing to the chief of police and asking for the records of the search.
But should they be able to keep the information that they've acquired?
I guess it depends what the information is. So I don't think the chief of police would be suggesting that at some later date he'd be entitled to look at the copy of the hard drive that is routinely taken in these kinds of searches. So I hope that's not what's being suggested. I don't think that's what's being suggested. So.
What do you think of having what do you think should be in place in New Brunswick? I mean, other than the inquiries, it's a pretty big demand to set up an inquiry. What else do you think should be in place in New Brunswick for incidents like this where there's some question about the police procedure?
Well, there's been, I've heard a lot of comments, discontent about the police complaints procedure that's here. I think you need to ask people who have more expertise in relation to that. Are there improvements that can be made to the police complaints process? I don't have enough information or experience. There are certainly people that can be asked. So basically, what I'm saying is, for the purposes of what we're talking about this morning, which is a review of what took place in Charles's case, I think what should happen, well, I've already made a pitch for an inquiry. If that doesn't work, I hope that the chief will speak to people in the community and people with expertise and get to a model that's going to satisfy the police and satisfy the community.
So I need to ask you another question so we can get a two-shot.
Oh.
What other question would you ask?
Ask him to spell Stephen.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, there you go.
Stephen for me. What is your area of expertise in law?
Criminal law and Aboriginal law are my two main areas.
And why did you end up accepting Charles' invitation to become your lawyer?
It's a sunny day in Fredericton, and
Wait, but did you have a particular concern about how these things were done?
Charles needed legal representation. It's clear that the central issue here, and it's an issue that people recognize in Fredericton, and because you've heard lots of comments about it, it's freedom of expression. So where's the line to be drawn, and who's policing that? And in this case, we think that the line was drawn, entirely in the wrong place, and it seems that the Attorney General's department agrees with that as far as Section 301 goes.
Is there any concern that charges may be laid against Mr. LeBlanc under a different portion of the
That wouldn't
code?
surprise me.
That would be surprising, especially after an independent review of police conduct in this. I mean, there is another section, the Criminal Code, Section 300, which also deals with defamatory libel. There's a very high, what's called a mens rea requirement. So people need to, the Crown has to show that there was a deliberate intent to defame. So someone says something that's untrue, and they know it's untrue, and they say it for the purpose of defaming someone else. And there's no suggestion anywhere.
And the majority of the people I talk to, some strangers that approach me, they always say the same thing. I don't always agree what you have to say, but I strongly believe that you have the right to say it. And this is what this is all about.
Why are you still hesitant about what you're saying?
Me, there's a system to follow, and I'm following the system day by day, hour by hour, and I'm just watching this very, very carefully. And Steve is doing a wonderful job. I really appreciate what he's doing. And like I said, we'll be very, very happy if we get a provincial inquiry.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I get to keep this? Or?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a gift. That's a gift.
You paid